the best it can do, because potentially our audience is across the state. And maybe even beyond, because it's this Common Core standards.
And also, I don't think checklist is on there, but we're developing checklist assessments where the teacher can have multiple students they're assessing and multiple standards that they're assessing at once, or if it's the alphabet, then it'll be alphabet all the way across, and then they can check that they've mastered that. And then also running records.
Yeah. So think about those assessments that you currently do in the classroom, and how can we make that electronic to make it more efficient for teachers? So you have the lens here of how can we use the teacher lens, and what am I currently doing that we can do more efficiently?
Would there be a way to create, so, okay, say we're working on manipulating. No, so, okay, so
Sure.
So we come up with, a bank of 200 questions. And then, because if a child is working through that, and I teach, and we practice, and I assess, well, guess what, we're working on it, I need another assessment. Is there a way to create a bank where it automatically generates a new, like, A, B, C form, you know what I mean? See what I'm talking about?
Almost like an adaptive retake component?
It doesn't have to be totally, it just needs to be different, So rather than us creating Form A, Form B, Form C, Form D, could we just develop the questions, and then those are generated? It doesn't necessarily have to be adaptive, but just different.
Yeah, so that is in production right now. We are, it's currently turned off because it wasn't working correctly, but essentially what you're saying is if I have a pool of questions,
Yes.
can it pull different questions every time? And yes, that's coming.
Okay.
So,
Because that, I think, as we're going through these at all the different levels, if I have a child who's having trouble with phonics, I want to have lots of, and it's like if you guys are working on that, it'd be great for me to have access to that as third grade, and you guys are, say it's a
Right.
one.
And because this is standards-based, and you'll see the form that you're going to be populating, you have to tie everything you're doing to a standard. They already have the standards in here, or will have. So if you have a third grader that's, say, working at a first grade level, the ideal situation would be that they would have the ability to go in and assess on those skill sets. So that you'll also want to be able to articulate clearly too as you're developing, and those ideas. If there are things that you think that this program is, they need to consider, maybe make that wish list up so that we can make sure that we get it to these guys and they can respond to us. Yes.
This is kind of random, but I want to find a wish list. Did you make the parent one? Did you try to say it in any way? Like if it's so that we could, if your parts in Spanish, just the results? I mean, not necessarily the kid one, but.
it's on our enhancement list and it is coming. It may not necessarily be within the next 3 to 4 months, but within the next year, definitely.
You see, and part of this tool, the dream is that after your students take this assessment with the data, certain things will be pushed out to the teachers automatically, pushed out to the administrator automatically. There is a component that we can push out to the parents automatically, but that can be down the line, because obviously we have to go through some testing with this. But think about what are those pieces that need to automatically be pushed out to a teacher. As a teacher, that data piece, what is it that you need to automatically know and highlight? What are maybe the go-to that you feel like, you know what, everyone needs to have this pushed out to them. If the threshold is this, for this data, this teacher needs this video. This teacher needs to step back and do this lesson. Okay? There may be some that you guys just feel like kind of the non-negotiables that could be automated.
Well, is there like an archive file too? So let's say Johnny struggled with phonics and then he moves to, first grade. And then with that first grade, teacher be able to look back at his assessments that he took.
Short answer, yes. Long answer, it's complicated, but yes. And that's, again, this is one of the really interesting things about kind of building a plane in the air is that everything is in the midst. We have a lot of pieces that work beautifully and a lot of pieces that are under enhancement. And so it's really a cool process. But this is why your feedback is so important to us because it gives us an indication about what needs to be worked on first. So, but yes, the archive data piece is huge.
The data will always be there within
Yeah.
Igor. That's why we're wanting to, as long as, so for instance, I work closely with Stephanie, and one of the things that we were doing is evaluating her data as an interventionist. Well, it didn't translate well to Igor because there were some critical elements that we weren't collecting at the same time, such as having student numbers tied to the students, because that's what tracks the students, no matter if they move from Granville to Godwin or to Hudsonville. As long as we have those student numbers, this is kind of like the tattoo for the student, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we can always generate reports that give us the historical view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've been talking about, so what is it that you're really going to have to do? You don't have to build this tool. What we're doing is building a template.
You can go through the
Okay, so you guys
What
would
are
be
you
here.
gonna do? They have more to do. Go
Yes.
for it. Go ahead.
we're just going to show them the template
Which
for
is exactly where we were going to go, so.
Okay. So exactly what Teresa said. You don't have to worry anything about Edify the tool itself. But when you complete your content, it has to go into the system. And we have a slew of people that help make that happen. And in order to make it happen efficiently and to make sure that things don't get messed up in the process, we have a system, obviously, okay? And we have a template for you to put in your content so that any intern that walks into the ISD or our office has the capability to copy and paste the information in the correct locations, okay? So we've got a couple of different versions of it so that you can use what works best for you. And then I believe, Mark, you came up with something else to go along with it that might make it
Yeah.
even easier?
Yeah. No, it's just the top. They'll still use this.
Okay, all right.
To communicate with you guys, I just switched what they're gonna sign up for.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, so the first version is a horizontal template here. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller. And essentially what it allows you to do is have your unit, your lessons, and then every piece that goes along with it. So you've got a teacher introduction. That's that engagement piece that Ruth spoke about. The learning target, your I can statements. Your primary resource is, it needs to be a video or an image, okay? The way the system is designed is so that on that unit page, there's always a thumbnail, all right? And that only happens if your primary resource is a video or an image, okay? So just the link to that, that resource. We really encourage you to leverage YouTube for those resources because they're super easy to load in and it's a wealth of, of everything. Your learning summary, that's the actual lesson. So what does a student need to do? And any additional resources that are going to be provided to the student or the teacher can be put in this location. Now there is an area for the standard right next to the resource. That is so, so, so important because that's what allows those resources to be automatically generated for the student after they've taken an assessment. Okay? Yes?
And I think, pardon me, I think also we talked about, I don't know if that was you and I, Ruth, or this group, but we talked about how there are many different things that might fill into a specific skill.
Mm-hmm.
So by identifying the resource and the skill that resource is most connected with, it would give an indication of that overlap, right? So you need to make sure, because it might not be the exact standard that we asked you to focus on for that unit. You might have other standards that build to students being successful at that skill. Am I making sense?
And don't feel like you have to be limited to writing one or connecting one standard to a resource. It can be tagged with up to 5 different ones, so you can really work that integration piece. Okay? If this horizontal view doesn't work for you, we have a vertical version. It's really, I mean, all the information is the same. So it's really just a matter of what's your preference for processing. And then you have an accompanying document. Do you have any questions about this? For these, yeah. I'm gonna go back into this one.
You could indicate, you put your assessment questions and options and indicate what type of assessment you want it
it's not letting me
to be. So if you want it to be a Madlit or, that was the drag and drop into the spaces, or if it was a plotting where you had an image and you could have it drop in.
And so, do they build that like in a Google Doc to list those questions for the question bank?
You can do it in a number of different ways. I personally like to write my questions out on a doc and then put the link in there, and it just makes it really easy for who's ever loading them into the system to grab those items. Just make sure that with every question you create, again, you're linking those standards to what the question is. Or you can write them in that space,
And we'll talk
whatever you want
about
to do.
the expectation, like put the standard first, or it's going to be a series of questions that relate to that same standard.
Mhm.
You can just tag it that way. And coding it to the question that you want it to be, maybe a drag and drop or.
Templates are
maybe,
Yeah, we could do that. We can make a document too that's a template for the assessment questions.
What if I have a document that I don't know where I got from, but I use it whenever I assess this skill, and it's this, middle school black and white carbon? Can I just scan it or upload it to the document as well? Or should I take that?
You can scan it, that's fine.
So for instance, I shared the QuickFind screener with you the other day. How might something like that be used? What's the responsibility on our end to say this is the type of assessment we want to do or offer up?
We need to be careful about copyright.
Some of those, I think we might want to look at the NLPP because we're not crossing copyright, even though most of those, I worked on those when I was in a building 20 years ago, but it's still good stuff. Yes, it is good stuff. And if you need access to the digital portions of those, if you even just search MLPP assessments. Home has them on there. Yeah, they do. And we can help you find those. But again, MLPP and that's all that is just simply because we do have to be conscious of copyright. We also want to create like a bibliography page, so if you feel like you really want to make sure that teachers know, like FCRR, if there's a website that you refer to or you go to for a lot of your ideas or tools, make sure that we're noting that, and that is something that you can share with teachers. Because there's some websites like FCRR that has a ton of resources, and you're not going to use all of them, but you may want to just say, hey, you ever noticed? You might want to go here for more resources. But MLPP is a great place to start because I know for kindergarten teachers, that is, when we did a survey around the county, that's the one resource that many teachers are commonly using.
Maybe spot one, but here's when that was only big one.
So anything else? And I know probably the questions will come as you start to build this, you'll go, oh, I wonder. But anything right now for Ruth and Megan?
Please know that we're at your disposal for questions that you might have. So, anytime. And Teresa has our information, so feel free to forward that on.
We'll put it in a document where.
Yeah.
Even in the early literacy folder that I shared
Oh,
with you, if you
we
go
can
in
do
there,
that.
there's a contact information, just add your name to the top column.
Sure, yeah,
Put your title as you wish, kickstand, whatever you want to put.
sure.